So today I'm going to talk about Starhawk. We can see him in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 featuring, well, basically being played by Sylvester Stallone. Very cool to see that, but who is this character really? Well, to answer that, we need to answer the one who created him. Well, who that is. That is, of course, Hawk God. So Hawk God is basically this incredibly powerful cosmic entity who basically thrived on destruction and the survival of the fittest. This, however, caused the almost extinction of the Watchers, which he was then basically judged by the other cosmic beings, among others, of course, the remaining Watcher called Ulig. So he was basically imprisoned in a temple for these atrocities, and this temple is basically at Arcturus 4. So, moving forward a little bit here to Kismet and Quasar the Avenger naturally. So they basically had a child which was then stolen by Hera, who is the offspring of Eon. Hera basically hid this child on Arcturus 4. This child later on is adopted by the Ogords, and he is then later christened Stakar Ogord. So he basically lived his life over and over again for some unknown reason, countless of times, and he kind of remembers everything that happens. This basically made it look like he knew the future, as he basically knew what would happen. So he was later on known as the one who knows. So the Ogords had a daughter as well, known as Alita. Alita and Stakar became somewhat friends naturally. I mean, they are siblings. And eventually Stakar was kind of pulled to the Forbidden City, and Alita naturally tagged along, and they accidentally unearthed the Hawk God Temple. So this basically set in motion the fact that the Hawk God created Starhawk as a bit of a redemption thing for the atrocities that he had done many years ago. Anyway, so Stakar and Alita basically share a body, but Stakar is basically controlling it, which would naturally cause a lot of friction between the two of them. However, they Starhawk basically traveled around the universe for centuries, aiding planets here and there, basically being good. Eventually, they came back to Arcturus 4, and Hawkgod basically separated them, and they later on would marry and have 3 children. So we're going to move forward to the year 3007. So the Guardians were basically formed from the planets around our solar system, and they eventually were joined by Starhawk. And they were basically freedom fighters fighting mostly the Badoon, who been basically taking over planets and stuff like that. Eventually they ended up at Arcturus 4 and fighting the Reavers of Arcturus and the High Commander Ogord. Basically, this High Commander kidnapped Stakar and Alita's children and basically mind controlled them into trying to kill their parents. And the Guardians managed to stop Ogord, but the children died. Naturally, Alita blamed Stakar for this, and this caused a very uneasy alliance between the two of them. They are still, of course, in the Guardians of the Galaxy, and they kind of switch between who is basically having the body, having the power. Sometimes it's Alita, and sometimes it's Stakar. So that is who that character is. I hope you've enjoyed this. This is all, of course, Marvel's creation. I'm only telling the story. If you enjoy this, do subscribe and stay safe out there.